Hello. Today I'm going to tell you how to connect with everybody on your teams. But first I'm going to talk about myself. So I'm Najla. I grew up in the US, but my first language is Arabic. I've always loved school, and I actually started writing code at 13. I'm a big traveler, and after university I backpacked through Europe, which was the last time I came to Berlin before I moved here a few months ago. Prior to this, I was an engineering director based in Mexico City and New York. And that is just a bit about me. It's just a tiny portion of my story. Everybody's got so many stories, including the people that you work with. Stories lead to real connection. At work, they can mean the difference between a pip and a promotion, between someone suffering in silence or asking for more accessibility. It can even mean the difference between missing a project deadline and completely nailing it. So, I am going to show you how to do this, because I think that being great at human connection is a skill that you can learn. It's not something that you're too busy for, or that you're too introverted for. It's a skill that you can grow into by building systems. I mean, we're engineers, right? So we'll start with the one-on-one in the creation of our system, because that's the smallest unit of human connection at work. And then we'll talk about how that can scale. Okay, so the one-on-one meeting. You're probably used to having this meeting with your reports, maybe even with skip levels or peers, but what are you talking about, and how often do you do them? We'll start with the what. When I'm meeting someone who's new to me for the first time, I have this amazing opportunity to show them how our relationship's going to be. So in our first one-on-one, I tell them, it's really important to me that we get to know each other a bit. Before we get into the work, I'll tell you a bit about myself, and I would love for you to do the same. It seems pretty obvious, right? But it's not. These conversations can feel awkward for some people, maybe even for some of you in the room. That's why I'm asking in this very specific way. First, I let them know why I'm asking. Then, very importantly, I let them know that I'll go first. I share an introduction to myself very similar to the one I gave at the beginning of this talk. I mentioned some places I've lived, that I like to travel, and how I got into coding. And what I'm doing here is leading by example. I'm showing them that I'm open, that it's safe to talk about things other than work, and that my story is diverse enough to have at least some small overlap with theirs. After you do this, after you open yourself up just a little bit, the other person will mirror you, and it sets the tone that in future one-on-ones, the first few minutes are for getting to know each other. This builds a relationship over time, giving you both more trust and empathy for each other. And don't worry, if the conversation isn't flowing, ask questions. There are 3 categories that I think make people feel really seen at work. The first is life. Like, what's going on with these people outside of work? Who do they see? What do they do? And what do they care about? And then there's career. You can ask the other person about their career goals and how you can support them, even if they don't report to you. Usually, if you take an interest in someone's career, they'll take an interest in yours, which is great because it means less surprise feedback and that you'll think of each other when opportunities pop up. And then my favorite, the F word, feelings. Are company policies or world events making them feel any sort of way? Do they feel safe in the relationship they have with you? Being able to talk about this is a pretty good sign that you're on track. The important thing is to stay consistent. Who here has gone into a one-on-one with their direct and the other person just starts word vomiting all of the projects they have going on? Because I have. And it's okay, just bring it back. You can say something like, I'm so glad you want to jump into the work right away, but making time for this helps us collaborate better. Not only does it show intentionality and appreciation, but there's a little bit of feedback in there. And don't skip these, but especially don't skip these with managers that report to you. As you move up, it's really easy to feel too busy, but it's even more important as senior managers that we model behaviors we want trickling down to the rest of our staff. And if this whole thing feels weird to you, I challenge you to do it anyway, because it is your job to do hard things. Maybe you don't hit it off day one and it's uncomfortable. Well, congratulations, the worst part is over. Trust me, in any relationship, if you tackle this discomfort up front, it's one less big thing you have to worry about later on.
And if you're enjoying this, LeadDev has a ton more to offer.
I'm quite fond of the articles.
I feel like LeadDev blogs are my favorite, and it's been really, really useful to kind of create these more meaningful connections as well.
If there's something you're struggling with as an engineering leader, there's a pretty good chance that LeadDev has published something that addresses it.
So make sure you check out leaddev.com.
Once you've nailed these connective moments with your directs, you'll want to scale this to a larger team. Let's say you manage engineers. You're having weekly one-on-ones with people, people feel connected, there's mutual trust, and it's easy to have hard conversations. Amazing. This is a great basic setup. It doesn't assume that these moments are going to happen organically. So what happens when you move up the chain and start managing managers? Aha! There is now a lot of space between you and the people that you're ultimately trying to support and influence. Yes, that middle layer of managers are your reports, and they're the people you care about one-on-one. But it's still your job to care about the engineers, because ultimately you're delivering products through them. So to scale, everyone has one-on-ones with their reports like before, but we also add skip levels. You'll see I put quarterly here for simplicity, but it can be whatever you want. Personally, I have about 40 skip levels right now, so I don't have the time or energy to do it more often. OK, so I think you can guess what happens when we add yet another layer. They meet with their reports and also have skip levels. I haven't been a VP yet, but I would guess that this is a pretty easy and cheap tool to find out what really is happening on the ground, and it makes you less scary. So how do we make this group even more tightly connected? Well, no teams are working in a vacuum, so it's really good practice for managers to meet with their peers. And once people are generally sold on the value of one-on-ones, we can suggest that engineers meet with each other as well. And then what? Well, then you can just bask in this big ball of synergy that you've created. You've created space for mentorship, for product ideation, venting, knowledge sharing, pair programming, and most importantly, direct feedback. It is possible to live in a world where, in parallel to getting the work done, a team cares about each other's growth and well-being. Giving feedback in that world is easier, and work gets done faster. Of course, we can always take it a step further. I like to meet with anyone who makes my team successful, so I also set up one-on-one systems with other functions. It's happened to me more than once where I have an engineering manager in conflict with their product partner. And when I've set my team up like this, it means I already have a very strong relationship with both people. I can coach both people. They both know that I have their backs. And with that mutual support, they can solve the problem more easily. Play with timing. With staff engineers, I meet more often so I can help them find opportunities. And with my product partner, I'm meeting twice a week. Just find what works for you and your team. And then try different formats. Even though I obviously love one-on-ones, they aren't the only tools for the job. For example, if you're a VP, maybe it makes sense to have group lunches with different teams of engineers to find out what's happening with them. My main advice is to make it really easy and simple. Have calendar invitations that automatically repeat. Explain why you're setting these meetings up, and stay true to your word. I get asked, well, how do people know that I'm not trying to micromanage them? That question alone tells me that you need to build trust, and you can prove that in the one-on-one. And be prepared. Practice pitching yourself and actively listening, especially the actively listening part. I'm going to kindly remind you that if you're talking for more than half the time in a one-on-one, you're probably missing the point. Oop, excuse me. So, why would we spend so much time on this? I'm sure that I could have found statistics about team productivity to prove my point to you. Or I could tell anecdotes, like how in 2023, my team went through 5 reorgs, still delivered 50% above goal, and had 0 attrition. Because when I had to move fast, my team already knew that I had their backs. But instead, I want to ask you, how did it feel? How did it feel knowing a bit about me before I started this talk? Did you connect a bit more to what I said? Maybe given what I told you, it wouldn't surprise you to learn that I grew up in a very connected culture. And what I take from that is that knowing who people are can influence so many decisions to help us succeed. But really, it's just nice to feel heard. I mean, wherever we're going at work, we're going to get there. But as managers, we get to decide how we want it to feel. In my job, I have the ability to influence the daily moods of so many people on my team. And when I do it this way, I think I provide more value than selling things on the internet. If you're still a hater, I'll say one more thing that so many other people on the stage already said in the past 2 days, in different words. People who say nice guys finish last don't know where the finish line is. Thank you.